Hi, you read the title, but just to be clear, here are some of the things before you get in. First, these manga have not been confirmed to get an anime adaptation. Second, I have made a list of all these mangas with timestamps down in the description or in the pinned comment. And down there, you will notice I have included a plus sign to some of them because those are best of the best, must read, and can be enjoyed by everyone, especially those who are new to this, and others can be a bit niche or not appeal to everyone. But I request you to hear some of what I am saying before you skip around, because some of the manga are not how they look. With that, I'm Dethash and let's get to the manga you must read. Kaiju number 8 is going to be one of the best and the most hype read you are going to have. Kafka Hibino is a 32-year-old member of the professional Kaiju Cleanup Corps. His job as a monster sweeper is to chop up and dispose of Kaijus killed by the defense force. When Kafka was a kid, he and his childhood friend Mina made a vow together to join the defense force and protect Japan from Kaijus. However, Kafka failed the entrance exam numerous times and called quit on his dreams of being a member of the defense force. While on the other end, Mina went on to become the 3rd division captain of the defense force, which leaves Kafka feeling very guilty. But one day, a parasite type kaiju forces its way in through Kafka's mouth, turning him into a kaiju and giving him one more chance to go after his dreams. This is a banger of a manga where we get double page spreads of kaijus and some of the most amazing paneling of fight scenes, which is really easy and clean to follow. Where in some of the manga fight scenes, you can't understand what the fuck is going on in those panels. The cast is really interesting. We suddenly get introduced to a bunch of characters who have their own distinct personalities, but they don't need much of screen time to grow on you. Every character is really likable. Some take their time to tell his or her story, or they stay with you long enough to make you really care about them. But even though these characters are really lovable, the shining star is no doubt Kafka. I really loved how mangaka took this approach. Instead of giving us young boy or Shounen, he gave us 32-year-old boomer. So when he tries to do these hard to impossible things for his age, that kind of rubs off on you. Personally, I'm not 32, but my mental state sure as hell is. But seeing him pursue his dreams, even though he quote-unquote is past the age of chasing new endeavors, when he accomplishes any goals, even though they are very small, it also puts a huge smile on your face, and it is a refreshing change. Instead of having an edgy or over-the-top guy as our protagonist, we just get another normal dude who would be a cool enough guy to hang out with. This manga is for everyone, especially for the ones who are new to reading manga, because you probably are. So start with this one if you are new to this. I feel now more than ever, fantasy genre is really getting unique, and Frieren is a perfect example of it. We open up the first chapter where the main squad has defeated the Demon Lord. Yes, you heard me correctly. They have already defeated the main boss, where our squad and the hero are having a victory celebration and getting their statues made to remind the future generation, where our hero is giving this beautiful last speech saying that it has been a beautiful journey with rough and tough patches. We started this journey over 10 years ago, and after so many years, we are finally ending it. But I'm glad that we spent most of our lives together. To that, the mage of the party says, "Oh, it's only been 10 years? What are you talking about long time?" The one who says that is an elf girl named Frieren. Elves live for over 1,000 years, so she couldn't even comprehend how long it has been for humans. For her, it's been only like 10 months. Frieren is a really unique show, and many people might not even like it. It is the journey beyond the end of this elf girl, where she slowly sees all her friends grow old and die while she remains the same. Her emotions are all jumbled, where she wants to feel sad for her friends, but could never comprehend what growing old and dying is. This is a slow journey of Frieren, where she is trying her hardest to feel and see from the perspective of human life. It is a really heart-clenching and tear-jerking story, where she sees the little kids who couldn't even walk growing older than her and passing before her eyes. The one scene that really broke me, that there was this mischievous kid in a village which Frieren visited years ago, but when she came back to that village, that boy was turned into an old man and was on his deathbed. But Frieren looked and sounded the same. I know this manga might not be for everyone, but the ones who make it past chapter 20 will fall in love with this manga. And those who will read this manga, here is a hot tip. Listen to Your Eternity's OSTs while reading it. Links in the description. You're welcome. Aragane no Ko, or Diamond in the Rough, is set in the world where stones are the center of this world. These different stones emit different powers. Some purify water to drink, some help in powering cities and houses like electricities, but the most important and the unique ones are the gemstones, especially the red one. One day, a wandering ore craftsman named Akeboshi visits an underground village who runs into this mysterious little boy. At first, he traps Akeboshi while shouting, Why did you do that? But soon enough, after clearing the misunderstanding, we find out that 3 years ago, another ore craftsman visited this city and he petrified Kai, our main character's both parents, his younger sister, and leaving him with a petrified foot. But things don't end here. Kai's foot and his family is not only petrified, their petrified bodies produce something which makes every human filled with greed and leaves Kai with only despair, where he's constantly treated like shit until Akeboshi comes along. I love Diamond in the Rough because of three main things. Even though Kai wants revenge for his parents, he's not 24/7 in the edge mode. He is a kid, but he also always dreamed of exploring, seeing the outside world, getting out of that underground shithole he's living in, where he has never seen the sky. There is this whole chapter where he feels guilty for having fun, exploring, and living his dreams while his family is petrified, which hits really hard. He does not want to be Hokage or Magic King or King of the Pirates, but instead just wants to save his family and see the outside world. Second, the world is really amazing. We see this huge tortoise carrying an entire house. We see dragons and how different types of stones mix together and create entirely new things where the possibilities are endless, even though there are specific rules to it. Wait a minute, this manga tricked me into learning science. Fuck! I just realized while recording this. The third is the cast of characters. We get introduced to this huge cast who have their own chemistry but have their own screen time while not stealing it from our main cast. Something close to Bleach or Black Clover. Read the first 3 chapters and you will be hooked. For this video, I was reading the first 3 chapters but accidentally went with the flow and almost got caught up with the latest chapter. Shounen no Abyss is really an uncomfortable story which tackles very dark topics. Reiji has an absolutely shitty life. He gets pushed around in the school and especially by his childhood friend. Even though he has good grades and can easily get into a good university, he has decided to work in the construction site after finishing his high school. He always thinks this one thing in the back of his mind. What if he leaves this small town and goes to Tokyo, but cannot due to his house situation? At home, his dad has walked out on his family, his grandmother has dementia and is bedridden. His elder brother is a shut-in who screams every day at everyone, and his mother is working herself to death and is expecting from Reiji to work right after he finishes his high school. With this, you can clearly see that this home is completely doomed. Reiji is constantly weighed by this burden, and slowly his mental state goes into hopelessness, where he finds comfort watching Aoi Nagi and idols' music videos. But one day, by a complete chance, he meets her near his convenience store. On that night, Reiji and Nagi hang out. He shows her around his town, thinking she's in this area temporarily and will soon leave this countryside, where he unknowingly shares all his problems, what he's going through, and after hearing all of this, she asks a single question. Do you want to commit a double suicide? From that point, Reiji's life goes spiraling down in depression, hopelessness, suicidal thoughts, which leads to very uncomfortable sexual interactions, not only with her, but others too. His life slowly shatters. The people he thought he could trust take advantage of him. The guy who was being an asshole is actually acting that way to keep him from harm's way. Every time you feel like you know a certain character, you see another side to them, and unfortunately, most of the time it's the ugly side. I mean very ugly side. This manga is not for those who cannot stomach the stories of depression, suicidal thoughts, and abuse, which in this case is mental, physical, and also sexual. Sometimes it feels like stories really trying to be edgy, but it makes full circle when you get the entire picture. If you are not mentally in a good place right now, please skip this one. But for those who can stomach it and read these types of stories which destroy you, this is a good read. Okay, enough with the depression. Let's get to the story which will make you lose your balls. Dandadan is the manga which has potential to be one of the best jump hits in upcoming years. Yes, I'm saying this while considering the recent hits like Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm purposefully pulling those comparisons in because this one gives the same feel and vibes to those series, but the execution is completely different. Dandadan throws you into this chaotic world where neither you and nor our main do understand what is going on, where the more they try to figure out and try to get out of this weird situation, they end up going deeper than the previous one, and every situation they encounter more and more weird and chaotic things. The story tries to sell you that this is a manga which throws you into chaotic situations with some sort of domino effect while also having funny haha gags, but that is until Chapter 15. Dandadan completely switches from the fast-paced, chaotic energy, fun gags with the underlying emotional message to this full-on, heart-clenching emotional story which is told without a single dialogue, and that is just a taste of what Dandadan can do. This is one of those type of stories. The more blind you go in, the better the experience is. But I will build up the atmosphere of it. Two high school teens get into the argument on whether aliens exist or ghosts. Ayase insists that ghosts and spirits exist, but aliens do not. On the contrary, Specs-kun insists that aliens are real and spirits are not. So to prove each other wrong while still proving that themselves are correct, they decide to go on each other's hotspots. Ayase goes to the place where Specs-kun says aliens can be found, and Specs-kun goes to the place where Ayase says ghost exists. As they slowly go deeper and deeper into that location, while still being connected by the call, they both encounter something which will flip their entire lives. Dandadan has amazing paneling and mind-blowing artwork. You know when you are reading a manga in a zone, and then there comes this one page which makes you stop for a good minute to take it in this amazing artwork. Dandadan has a lot of those. On the normal time, one every 2 chapters, but when the shit gets real, there are 2 every single chapter. And here is a little more motivation boost. The author of this series was assistant for Tatsuki Fujimoto's Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man. So, go read it now. Gritty yet mind-blowing art. Interesting and mysterious world. Characters which you want to know more about. That is Eisen the Lovelock. When the earth was in chaos, there was war and injustice. But suddenly out of somewhere, a group of guys came and ended the bloodshed and made the world a peaceful place. Later on, these guys came to be known as heroes who not only ended wars but also saved the world from economic crisis. But the biggest question was, no one knew where they came from. But over time, that question also faded in obscurity and the heroes were at the top of the society. But we soon find out that these heroes are not heroes at all. This saving the world is just a front for the public, but behind the scenes, they conduct human experiments and kidnap children to convert regular humans to superhumans. And between all of this, our main character gets caught up. If this kind of sounds familiar, because on the surface, it sounds like the plot of The Boys from Amazon Prime. But don't worry, it stands alone on its feet, even though it has clearly taken inspiration from The Boys. The main character is kind of annoying at the start, but over time, he grows on you. Let me be clear, the story is not some revolutionary thing, but instead of our main cast being heroes, they are anti-heroes trying to save the world, with definitely not conventional means. The world is the most interesting part of this manga. We slowly get revealed how heroes came to be, what are they doing here, and are they from Earth? But the main strength of this manga is the art. The details in these panels, as you can see, is really good. I suggest you give the first 10 chapters a try, because you definitely will be hooked at the first 2 chapters, but the middle chapters kind of slow down until it really picks back up. If this does not do it for you, then leave it. Read this next one. Oshi no Ko is a really beautiful yet cruel, hard-hitting, mysterious, and an emotional rollercoaster of a manga, which transpires and shows the hardships and ugly sides behind the curtain of idol and showbiz world. This manga is drawn by the mangaka of Scum Swish, which is one of my favorites, and written by the mangaka of Kaguya-sama, which is still having a weekly serialization where Akakasaka is drawing and writing Kaguya-sama while simultaneously writing this manga. What? Most mangaka find it hard to do one manga, and this child is juggling 2 amazing stories like a bartender. We open up where a gynecologist is fan of an idol Ai, who is still pretty underground but quickly rising to the fame. When one day he sees a patient walking in with a teen pregnancy, soon finding out that girl is none other than Ai herself, where the doctor promises Ai that he will do a safe delivery, but he gets killed by one of Ai's obsessive fan, and he gets reincarnated as her baby. And don't worry, this all happens in chapter 1, but all of this doesn't matter. Kind of. We open up with all of this, and I will talk about it later. But this story is not about Ai, it is about Aqua, her son, and this fucked up showbiz culture, where some people put these celebrities on a pedestal while forgetting they are all just like us, humans. This manga shows you how the modern day showbiz works, going viral on Twitter, breaking YouTube algorithms, doing some things which you know are not good, but doing it anyway to stay in relevance, or at worst, getting mass cancelled. And if they cannot take the hate mob, we see the worst thing happening to them. The story is not always like this. I mean, come on, this is the guy who wrote Kaguya-sama. It does not glorify anything, but shows the truth behind the curtains, and unfortunately, most of the time, it is heart-clenchingly brutal. This manga is a must-read. It has a really amazing side story which is tied to the start, and I cannot say what it is because it will ruin, and I don't use that word lightly, but it will absolutely ruin your experience if I say it. So please take my word and read it. you will be hooked at chapter 1, and somehow, if you are that 1 in a million guy who does not get hooked, stick till chapter 10. Please, this is a must read by everyone and probably the best manga out of this list. Sakamoto Days is one of the funniest and the most badass manga. Imagine if John Wick's wife did not die, they had a kid, and both of them opened a grocery store, but due to retirement and having a good life, he gets fat while still having the same reflexes and hitman knowledge. So when the underworld comes to dispose him off, we see this fat guy doing insane moves and moving like a wind. This is Sakamoto Days in a nutshell. Sakamoto Days is a wholesome manga with the plot of retired hitman tries to live his daily life, where he encounters his junior co-workers and takes them under his wing, which leaves us with really wholesome moments from this wholesome story until the story drops this fuzzy comfy feeling and goes absolutely wild. We get introduced to the top tier people of Underworld. There are gangs who want to kill Sakamoto. There are also gangs who want to eliminate that gang, so they approach Sakamoto, all while introducing the top dogs of Underworld with some of the most interesting world building while giving us this Underworld hierarchy and the fights. Oh, the fights. Oh, you really want to know how the fights are? Sakamoto punches a guy through the fucking building. In return, the guy throws grenades at him. Sakamoto kicks 2 grenades back and blocks one with his bare hands, all while being in midair and jumping through the buildings while locking each other's fists and returning each other's kicks until Sakamoto punches a guy so hard that they both burst into Ferris wheel booth. Then you just see this. And the fight is concluded like a boss. But here is the neat part. This fight is just a warm-up for the much bigger arc. This fight happens in like a chapter 10 or 12. Give this manga like first 2 chapters and you will binge read it in a day. Many of you are going to skip out on this one just because how it looks, but this is one of the best inspirational and heartfelt stories I have seen. Tsukasa always had a passion for figure skating, but he couldn't thrive in that due to Japan's insane competition for that sport. So he just switched to ice dancing, where with some luck and lot of hard work, he was just about to make it into big leagues, but due to his financial conditions, he had to leave and get a job which is stable, where after 2 years of struggling and having his dream shattered to be a figure skater, he gets an offer to be an assistant coach at a club, which he has been sitting on due to his ego. But one day, he sees a kid sneaking into a public ice skating rink. After confronting her, he finds out that her situation is not much different from his when he was about to pursue ice skating. Inori is a quiet kid, where she finds really hard to speak up for herself. As a result, many people take her for granted, even her mother to some extent. Whenever she requests her mother to take her to ice skating rink, she gets brushed off, ignored, or gets the typical excuse of "you will be hurt," where after meeting Tsukasa, she gets enough confidence in her to ask her mother to at least go in and see the coaching, where one thing leads to another and Tsukasa gets inspired after seeing Inori skate and feels morally responsible that if I couldn't, at least I will push Inori forward and make her dreams a reality. Medalist is inspirational, emotional, and heart-touching. Seeing Inori not only battling on the skating rink to be the best, where even though she has started late compared to the other kids and putting in extreme hard work to close the gap with others, but on the other side also fighting her own battles outside the skating ring, where she has to break out of her shell and convince her mother that she is figure skating not because it is a hobby, but she wants to become the very best and compete at a higher level, which is really financially draining. Where she's always been pulled down whenever she tries to open up is brutal to see, and the way they do it really drives home. Seeing the adorable Inori trying her hardest while doing silly mistakes, getting really nervous and having major setbacks even though she tried her hardest makes you really root for her. So when she wins, you cannot help but be really happy from the bottom of your heart. Tsukasa and Inori really bounce off well with each other, whether be it in silly things, setbacks, or major achievements. I will not lie, there were times where I got so overwhelmed by the emotions, I had to take a moment to breathe and wipe my tears off. This is the exact type of story I was expecting while watching Yuri on Ice, but it turned out to be something entirely different. The author of Medalist explains every little detail of ice skating with amazing metaphors, which feels like you are not learning information even though you are, which is really important and helpful for me because I have never done or seen ice skating. Medalist is one of that manga where every chapter you will be brimming with emotions, which makes it a must read. If you want a banger manga, which will soon be the hottest shit of Shonen Jump when it gets more chapters or when an anime gets announced, then check out Ayashimon. Maru always wanted to be a manga protagonist like Kenshiro, Goku, and Jotaro because he also saw his life as a manga. He he always used to get bullied and beat up. So he started training to one day get revenge on the big bad for his final chapter as a climax to his manga. So every day he trained, and by the age of 5 he found out that he could split a boulder in two with a single punch and beat up his big bad bully with no efforts whatsoever, where he was just too strong for a normal human being. And now people started avoiding him because he was too strong for even doing a regular work and couldn't even get a normal job without wrecking everything. But luckily, he does not live in the world where only humans exist. There are other beings who live alongside humans who do not show their true face, called Ayashimons, where Maruo meets this mysterious girl who's getting chased by the Ayashimons, and after tussling with them, he finally feels alive once again after fighting strong opponents. As a result, with no second thought, he swears loyalty to this mysterious girl who claims to be a gang boss. Ayashimon is also one of that manga where I just want to say, go, read it. But that is not enough nowadays. The mangaka of Ayashimon is Kakuyuju, the former assistant of Chainsaw Man, and not only that, but his first work, Jigoraku, is getting an anime adaptation, and thanks to that, I wouldn't be surprised if his manga broke sales records. After reading the first chapter, there will be two types of people. The first one will be instantly hooked because it appeals to the core shonen fighting audience, and the others would be like past me who would think, what of it? What if he can kick ass? That is not enough, but trust me and stick with the manga till chapter 10, and then you will also be hooked, not just with the characters but also be interested in this world and would be more and more curious as you read more upcoming chapters. Okay, I was going to end here, but there is one more manga, but it is one shot and not ongoing manga, and it is Tatsuki Fujimoto's Look Back. There is only one way I can describe this manga with: beautiful yet very cruel. This manga is only 142 pages long, yet it left me with a very heavy heart. If you can at least spare half an hour, please read this manga. Let me know in the comments below which one of them you are really looking forward to read. With that, smash like if you enjoyed, share it around with your friends and recommend them some of the mangas. And thanks for subscribing and watching this video out of all the others. That's about it. See ya.